Hello folks, Scott with Dallas Paint Correction and Auto Detailing here in Dallas, Texas once again. Today is Sunday, it's my day off. Well, it just happened to be that way, so I wanted to make another video. I just made a video on how I remove the light scratches from clay barring and rinseless washing and all that stuff. And I alluded to paint correction on a white car. And really, what does that mean? Because we don't see a lot of videos about it. There's not a lot of videos out there because, to be honest with you, it's just not sexy. Most of us like to watch a video on a black car that's getting paint correction so you can see the 50-50. That's sexy, that's wonderful, and you pull up the tape line and everybody's happy. But white cars are very interesting to me, and it doesn't get talked about a lot, and I wanted to talk about it. Again, if you watched my last video, 25% of all cars made in North America, I want to say about 25% of all cars worldwide happen to be white. And if you're in auto detailing or thinking about getting into auto detailing, when you have customers who have white cars, typically these aren't your biggest clients when it comes to paint correction. Why? Well, because white cars aren't all that reflective. They don't show a lot of those imperfections within the paint, like the scratches and swirls. Doesn't mean they're not there. In fact, if I snapped my fingers and made this car black, holy crap, we'd stand here and go, wow, that car needs a two-step paint correction. But my point is most customers don't really see the value or the benefit in doing any type of paint correction on a white car unless it's really gotten out of hand. Now with this car here, of course it's mine, it's in relatively good shape, but I want to talk about how my mindset and what I'm thinking about when I'm doing paint correction on a white car. When we talk about doing paint correction on a white car, yes, we want to remove the scratches, yes, we want to remove the swirls if we can see them, whether they be in the sunlight, or maybe sometimes with a white car it's easier to get it into a dark garage and then use like an LED light to really see them. I hope the wind isn't bothering you guys, I'm sorry. But in this particular case here, I want to talk about a two-step paint correction process that I love on white paint and why I do it and why I get customers who are interested in doing it as well. The reason white paint should be talked about, should be discussed, again, there's so many cars that are white, just drive down the highway. I'm willing to say that if you are in traffic and you pass 10 or 15 cars, I promise you 4 or 5 of them are going to be white. And they're just a very popular color. It's white is our most popular color, then it's silver, and then it's black. Those are the colors that seem to be very, very popular right now, which is slowly changing, by the way, but that's another video. But here, my deal when it comes to white paint, yes, I want to remove those imperfections from the paint, but my next goal, or really the ultimate goal here, is because when you do paint correction on a white car, you don't get the effect like you do from a black car or a red car or a yellow car. It's not highly reflective, so a lot of people just don't see the value in doing paint correction with a white vehicle. But here's something very interesting about white paint, and I think it needs to be talked about. To me, white paint, when it's completely dialed in and it's in good shape, just because we can't see the scratches and swirls with our human eye outside in direct sunlight unless it's really bad, that doesn't mean it's diminishing its shine and gloss capability. It absolutely is. Just because we can't see the scratches per se, it is in fact when the sun's light hits that panel and there's scratches and swirls on it, even though our eyes can't see it, it's diffusing the light. It's not coming back to us in a straight line. So the white paint may look a little dull. One thing about customers will say to me sometimes, my white paint looks a little yellow, like it's getting like an eggshell color to it. It wasn't that way when I bought it. Well, these are the things that start to bring down or degrade the overall appearance of white paint. And why do I bring this up? Because when we're doing paint correction on white paint, and this is the best way I can explain it, I know it's going to sound a little silly, I want white paint to start looking warm. I want it to start look like it's almost like it's glowing. Again, it's not highly reflective. It's not like I'm going to bring this car out in direct sunlight and it's going to have the same effect as a black car will. It's not going to necessarily look wet when it's dry. It's not going to look like a pond of water when I'm done with it. But white paint, when it's dialed in correctly, will have a really nice, warm, inviting color to it. I know that sounds silly, it's the only way I can explain it. And it will glow. If you can imagine this white car driving at night, comes to an intersection, and say there's a light at the intersection, not a traffic light, but like a light that would just emit light on the intersection. When this car pulls underneath that light, any type of fluorescent lighting from a traffic pole or something like that, this car, when it's dialed in, should look like it's glowing under that light. That's the effect I'm looking for when it comes to doing paint correction with white paint. That's really the effect I'm looking for. Something very warm, inviting, and it should glow a little bit. It may give you a little bit of a wet look to it, but ultimately you don't see that with a lot of white paint. Depending on the white paint, if it's got any metallic flake to it, you might get a little bit of that. But I wanted to highlight a compound and a pad that I've been using on white paint now for a little bit, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, and I've been having some great luck with not being overly aggressive with the paint, but getting that effect that I want, that warm look, that glow look to it. And again, it's going to be, you've seen me guys talk about Griot's correcting cream, how I use this pretty much as not an all-in-one, but as a one-step polishing compound for a lot of vehicles, regardless of what color they are. I have tremendous luck and success with using this stuff on white paint. And it is a time when I do use the pad that Griot's wanted you to use with the correcting cream. It's their orange pad. This correcting cream says it's for removal of moderate paint defects. Typically with white paint, you don't have to go Jescar, you don't have to go Menzerna, you don't have to go really, really big heavy cut, because most customers in the real world aren't looking for that type of correction. They want a correction that's going to give them that warm look again, and you don't have to be overly aggressive. But this paint will take a two-step to be able to do that. So I'm going to use Griot's, their orange polishing pad or compounding pad, however you want to look at it. It's matched to their correcting cream. And I'm going to do a small section to do some correction, and then I'll follow up and I'll tell you what I follow up with to get that beautiful look. So I'll put some on my pad here. Let me shake this up first. Get some on the pad, bunch of little dots. You guys have seen my videos on how I do that. Some guys like 2 or 3 pea size drop. That's cool. I mean, whatever works for you, if that kind of makes sense. Some guys like to prime it. I'm not a huge fan of priming the pad. I've seen it work and not work other times, so I don't overthink it. But I'm going to go in with this correcting compound with the orange pad and just do a 2x2 area. Then I'll wipe it up, and then we'll finish up with it, and I'll try to get the best I can on a video of what I'm looking for with white paint. Typically, you want to tap it out, that's fine. I say that all the time in my videos. I'm going to spread it out on speed 2 and stay, when I'm doing some type of paint correction, I'm going to stay within a 2x2 or maybe a 3x3 area. I'm going to work slow arm speeds. I want to engage that compound with the pad into the paint so I can pull some of the defects off the paint. So it would look like this. Now if you're using Griot's polishing system with their pad, or if you were using their machine too, that's fine. What's really great about that, and I mentioned this before, it actually tells you recommended speed. It also tells you to only do 3 or 4 passes within your little 2x2 area. That seems to be right on target. That's the sweet spot for this stuff. What's also great about this stuff, it has no fillers, no silicones or anything like that. So what you see is what you get. I can just simply, what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to take my paint prep, and just, the only reason why I use the paint prep to remove the polish is just so it makes it a little bit easier for me. It helps with removing the compound so it's not grabby off the surface of the paint. But this stuff is pretty easy to remove. You can do it without it. It's not going to make or break your world. But I just like putting a couple sprays on there. I'll come in here with a clean microfiber towel and just pick up that residue from the compound. Again, there's no fillers or silicones or anything like that within Griot's system, within their correcting cream. So what you see is pretty much what you get. There's nothing filling those scratches, so that looks great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to finish up, because the correcting cream, although on white paint or even on red paint or black paint, can be used as a one-step polish, I want to refine that surface a little bit more. It really hasn't left the surface scoured or hazy or anything like that. It's not that type of compound. It's not all that aggressive, but it's perfect for white paint. We don't necessarily have to be all that aggressive. Removing defect from white paint, you don't have to go level 10 with it. There are customers that may require that, but on this particular car and most white colored cars, customers just aren't always looking for a level 10 because they're not going to appreciate it, because white paint is not all that highly reflective. Most of the time you can't even see the scratches and swirls on white paint. Doesn't mean they're not there, but typically a mild correcting cream like Griot's is enough to be able to get you from like a level 5 to a level 8 with our normal viewing eyeballs, and that will get us a nice look to the paint right there. But I want to finish it up, and this is where restoring that shine and gloss after using a correction compound on white paint really becomes absolutely crucial to get you that warm, inviting glow look to white paint. So what I'm going to do, I've used the orange pad for the compound part of the process, the leveling part of the process, if you will, to remove some of those defects. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Griot's finishing sealant. They make a perfecting cream, which would be the next step down from their correcting cream. It's called perfecting cream, and you can use that on that, but I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Their finishing sealant is abrasive. It can kind of refine the finish just fine on white paint. I'm going to use their black pad that goes in conjunction with their finishing sealant, and I get amazing results on white paint with this process. It doesn't take all that long, 3 or 4 section passes with the correcting compound. Now when it comes to the finishing sealant, I may only have to do 2 or 3 passes, less pressure. I may even be able to increase my arm speed. I may not have to go real slow. I just find with white paint, I get amazing results with the correcting cream and with the finishing sealant with Griot's, and using their dedicated pads for the system. It works really well for me. So I just wanted to share that with you. And again, white paint, you know, if I put a 50-50 tape line here, you guys aren't really going to see anything on the video, and that's why people don't do it. It's not sexy. But learning how to dial in white paint, because there's so many white cars out there, and most of your customers that you come in contact with, if you're in the business already or wanting to get into the business, your customers most likely, if they have 2 or 3 cars in a driveway, I can almost guarantee you one of them is white. It's just the way it works. So learn how to dial in white paint. When you do that for a customer and you show them how their white paint, which they thought looked relatively fine, and then you bring that gloss back, you bring that shine, you bring that glow, you bring that warmth back, it will blow their mind. Some people forget what their white paint looked like after, you know, they forget what it looked like when they bought it new, and over a period of time it can get a little bit of dull. A little bit of dull, a little dull. But here I go. I'm going to take the finishing sealant with the finishing pad that Griot's wants to match it with. And again, I don't have to make 4 or 5 section passes. I can increase my arm speed. I'm just refining the finish a little bit, and I'm going to lay some sealant behind. Going to start on speed 2 just to spread out the product. And usually with a finishing polish or a finishing sealant or an all-in-one, you don't have to have your DA on speed 6. I think sometimes it's just a little too aggressive. Speed 5 to 6 is fine when you're compounding or removing defects. When you're refining the finish, you might be able to go down to 4 or 5. It's not all that. You're not removing defects at that moment. You just kind of want to kiss the paint and refine the finish. So I think lowering the speed on your second part of your process will help refine the finish as well. Just a little side note and a tip. But it will look like this. I'll start off on speed 2 to spread out my product. Then I'll probably bump it up to 4, maybe 4.5, and just do 3 or 4 section passes and be done. Now, because this finishing sealant, as the name implies, has a sealant within it, even though it's abrasive and can remove some light defects, and also is absolutely perfect for taking away any of the scoured look or the slight haziness from the correcting compound. But I don't want to use a paint prep now, because then I'll just lose the protective quality of the finishing sealant. So I'm just going to go in and wipe off this panel with a clean microfiber towel and just leave that sealant on the surface of the panel. This stuff just is silky smooth. It's so easy to remove. What I love about the correcting compound by Griot's, it doesn't leave. There's very little dusting that happens during the process. The finishing sealant basically has no dusting issues whatsoever. But now when it comes to white paint, it's the whole reason I'm making this video, right? I'm rambling on. But white paint is absolutely crucial to be able to do a paint correction correctly. And you don't see a lot of videos about it because I can't pull up a piece of tape and all you guys go, wow, that's amazing. It really is going to be the visual effect you get from white paint, and not by removing tape. Moving the car out into sunlight after this process, you want to see white paint that's glowing. It wants to be warm. It wants to be inviting. I know that's a little weird, but you'll get it. You'll understand what I'm talking about when you do it. But this combination of the correcting cream by Griot's and their finishing sealant on white paint, again, a two-step process on white paint. Just because I work in the real world, most customers aren't going to want a heavy cut pound. It's just not appropriate, because the level of defects they're seeing in white paint aren't all that bad. That doesn't mean they're not bad. It just means from their level, their perspective, they just want to remove some of them. They want to restore some of that warm glow to it. So you can use that correcting cream, 4 or 5 passes in your 2x2 area. Go ahead and wipe it up. then finish with the finishing sealant by Griot's with white paint. For whatever reason, this combo of those two compounds and polishes, and with their pads, they designed for that system, even using a simple DA like a Porta Cable, Harbor Freight, whatever it may be. You don't necessarily have to buy a Griot's machine. It's a great machine, and I have it and I love it, but I make these videos typically for people who can get their hands on a Harbor Freight. It's cheap, guys. It'll work wonders for you. It's better than a Porta Cable all day long. But that's my process for white paint correction. Don't have to be overly aggressive, somewhere in the middle. Finish out with a nice finish polish, maybe something like Griot's finishing sealant, which will finish out and leave you protection behind. And again, with white paint, you want to see something glowing. You want to see something warm and inviting when it's done. It shouldn't look dull. And basically, that's my tips on white paint correction. Would love to bring you in with the camera, but you're not going to see anything. It's not all that sexy. But if you can dial in a white car, most of your customers are going to have them. Boy, it's going to work wonders for you. There are tips and tricks to dialing in a white car that are important. Doesn't get talked about a lot, but I wanted to talk about it today with you, and some of those little tips are the two products that I use with the pads. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. Till next time, love one another, be kind to one another, and be safe. We'll see you in the next video.